I hope you're doing well. I wanted to give a breakdown of my experience in Dubai, unravel the lessons that I took from the experience, and ultimately give you guys clarity on specifically how to navigate an experience that may potentially be negative or whatever it might be, and take positive learnings from it. My experience of learning, what the specific learnings were, and more importantly, to be raw and real with you guys. Show the hardships of some of these journeys, the opportunities, and etc. So let's get into it. So we start on a Tuesday night. I wake up at 11. I got called by my sales manager the following morning, so 2 hours later, roughly at 1:30 a.m. on a Wednesday. So it's Wednesday, 1:30. We're talking about optimizing my script, but more importantly, like being the best salesperson, etc., helping some people, what I've got in the pipeline. And then at the end of the call, he gives me a really cool opportunity, and he's like, hey man, let's fly you down to Dubai. Let's do it. The day before that, I convinced him, I'm like, hey man, like how much money are you missing out on me not being in Dubai? And he was like, 300, 400K, I reckon. So I'm like, okay, every month that I'm not in Dubai, you're missing out on 400K, yeah? Yeah. So he convinced the CEO to fly me down. So he calls me, it's 1:30, it's 2 o'clock, and he says, okay, your flight is at 5 a.m. Come now or not. What? I just got offered, I've got 3 hours to pack my bags, to say goodbye to my family, to line up all of my dots and whatnot. And it took me 10 minutes, but I was like, you know what, let's do it. So in the span of 10 minutes, I made a decision to fly across the world with no prep time and start making some money, helping some people, and growing, most importantly, in my journey. In that moment, what made me make the decision was, would I rather be the person who waits and doesn't take the action, or would I rather be the person who can tell a story where at 2 a.m. in the morning, he made a decision that he would hop on a plane to go across the world in the span of 3 hours? I would rather be the second one. It's a cool story to tell. So I pack up, I'm writing a note because I'm gonna go to Dubai. So I'm writing a note for my parents and my family, and I'm just thinking in that moment, dude, I'm going across the world. They don't know that I'm leaving. Imagine waking up to a note. So I woke everyone up, said goodbye, they prayed for me, etc. It was very cool. My parents were like, when did you get this opportunity? They were freaking out, but they have so much belief in me because I have so much belief in myself, and I portray that to them, that they trust me in whatever I do. Driving to the airport, cool, take a few videos, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind about taking advantage of every opportunity. I made that decision, and I am so glad that I made that decision because it shows the belief that I have in myself, the certainty that I have in myself, and I would rather make a decision with self-belief, a certain decision, and be wrong, compared to not being the type of person who makes that decision and stays paralyzed in fear or dilly-dallying state where I don't do anything. So I made the choice, got on the plane, now we're flying to Dubai. Now I land in Dubai, things are cool, I meet the sales manager, things are awesome. We get in a Rolls Royce, we're driving down to the house, and I'm geeked out. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I'm in Dubai. I was in the Rolls Royce, and it was funny because someone asked me, was it crazy to sort of be in that car? In my mind, I'm envisioning McLarens and LaFerraris and whatnot. So it was almost normal to me, which I think is pretty cool. It means that my state is attuned to having like wealth and abundance, which is great. But ultimately it was great. Like no negative experiences there. Then when I got to the house, I don't want to get into extreme details, but something was off. For the first time in my life, I'll dive into it like in the future, but I had anxiety, which I've never had before, to the point where I couldn't sleep. I hadn't slept for 50 hours. On the plane ride, I didn't sleep. I worked for 10 hours straight when I got there. So it got to 2 a.m. I was tired. I tried to sleep. I couldn't. I had this feeling in my chest of like an elephant sitting on me or someone grabbing my heart and crushing it. And I was reframing myself, painting the image of what was happening, and then reframing my mindset and the thoughts that I put on that image. I was praying to God, and ultimately there were many variables that contradicted to that or that were a part of that, including physiological, meaning I hadn't eaten in 24 hours. I hadn't slept in 50 hours. I had worked for 10 hours straight. My brain was taxed. Like, I'm aware that those were factors as well, but there are a few dominoes that also were aligned in the fact of like, that wasn't in alignment with who I am and the state that I have. So it was 6 a.m. the next morning. I had gone for a walk, done some push-ups, etc. And my next flight, if I wanted to go back home, was at 10 a.m. So I could either wait 24 hours and continue being in this stress state, not feeling aligned with the environment, etc., or I could make another decision to get back home, make that aligned decision. Now, there was a part of me that thought like, why are you being a bitch, bro? Don't listen to your inner bitch, etc. What I did know was that the voice telling me don't listen to the inner bitch was the inner bitch saying like, stay, people please. They flew you out here. Like, if you go back, they're going to be disappointed in you, etc. But that's my inner bitch talking. That's my people pleaser talking. That's the version of me that isn't aligned with the version of me that's making $100 million per year. So in that moment, instead of saying, oh, I'm just going to brute force my way through this stress that is keeping me up at night where I can't sleep, I'm going to return home, back to a state of homeostasis where I know that I have alignment with that environment. Once again, I'm not going to go into extreme details, but deep down, I knew that that was the right choice to make, and I could make that choice with conviction. I've always prided myself on being the hardest worker in the room, and in that moment, for 10 hours straight where I couldn't fall asleep, I was up and stressed out, I was asking myself, like, is this the version of me that I want to be? And the answer was no. I don't want to be 30, 40, 50 years old in that state where I'm working 16 hours a day, in the state where I'm stressed to the brim, where I'm stressing myself out to the point where I can't sleep. I don't want to be away from the people that I care about to the point where I'm not in their life anymore. I want to have alignment. So instead of focusing on working 16 hours a day and being obsessed with just the work, I instead made the decision there to be obsessed with being the best version of me, the one who makes $100 million per year, but at the same time, the one who might only work 10 hours a day, the one who might only work 8 hours a day, but the rest of the time is active recovery. Instead of coping and saying, oh, I need to work, shutting off that noise and saying, no, I need to active rest so that when I do work, it's more productive. Which is hard for me because I used to put value on, or even still do, I guess, put value on like me working the hardest. And it's not something that's easy to break, I guess you could say. Never mind, reframe, I can break that easily, like put that behind me. But that is a pattern of mine where I will always be the hardest worker in the room because I put my value on it. People ask, why do you work so hard? That's where I get my self-worth from currently. And that's something that I'm actively reframing. But the whole premise of me making that decision was to make the best decision for me and get back home, or people please and stay there. And I chose me. So I booked a flight home. It was like 6 a.m. So I was in Dubai for a total of 19 hours. So that was pretty fun. I get home feeling good. I slept on the flight. It was very interesting. I had so much physiological stress to the point where like my face was bloated top right. It was crazy. I've never felt that before. So it's nice to know what that feels like and the fact that I can control it. But here are 3 main lessons that I learned. Lesson number 1 is absolute self-belief. I love myself for the fact that it was 2 a.m. in the morning. I got a call to fly across the world and I did it. I took the leap. I was uncomfortable, and I had fear, but I chose to be brave. Like that's lesson number 1. I can bet on myself when it comes down to it. And I do bet on myself when it comes down to it. You're gonna have decisions to be made that are needed to happen quick and efficiently when the pressure is on. And I think that's one of those when I left to Dubai, and I'm glad that I made the right decision. I'm very glad. If you ever have that like high pressure situation, just make the call, do the dive, you'll be fine. And then trust yourself to, even in the worst case scenario, to pull yourself out. Lesson number 2 is alignment over people pleasing. I think it is so important to be able to pour from a full cup. So instead of people pleasing and doing things for other people, I need to first make sure that I'm good. And if I'm performing at my best, then I can actually help those people more. whether that's with family, work, friends, etc. If you constantly put other people first to the point where it's a detriment for you, you're not going to serve those people as well. Now, that is something that's hard and that I struggle with because Jesus always puts other people first, but I think that there is a balance, personally. Because if you always put other people first, you put yourself in a bad position where you can't help those people. So for me, instead of choosing to people please, I chose to have ruthless relationships. I chose to put myself first in that situation because I know the absolute best version of me doesn't let other people's opinions, thoughts, and intentions impact him. So that's what I did. I made the choice. Sometimes people might think it's retreat. People might look at what I did and say, oh, like, what a bitch, he's scared. And that might be their interpretation of it. But I'm brave enough to make that choice to come back home, to put myself in the best possible position and not give a shit what other people think. Excuse my French. Lesson number 3 is hard work versus aligned work. This is something that I think my next phase of life is going to be big on, because I've always wanted to be the hardest worker in the room, and I have been. That's what's gotten me to where I am. But at the same time, there is a difference between hard work and aligned work. Hard work is working 16 hours a day, doing all-nighters, burning yourself out, not taking care of your health. Aligned work is working 8 hours a day, reading for an hour a day, training, going for a walk, de-stressing, spending time with your family. That's important. Not lazy, not numbing your brain to social media, but instead actively resting, being aligned with what I do. And I think this next season is going to be the biggest pivotal point for me doing aligned work. And it's going to be so difficult, in my personal opinion, because right now I'm waking up at 1 a.m. and God's going to have to give me strength to put trust in him so that I can do aligned work. Because in my viewpoint, the harder I work, the more I get. But like Warren Buffett, he works 2 hours a day and he has all the leverage in the world. So does the best version of me work 16 hours a day? Probably not. So I have to put trust in God for him to make what I do fruitful to the point where I might only need to work 8 hours a day. So that's lesson number 3, aligned work. Instead of focusing on making 20K a month, focus on being obsessed with the version of you that can reach their goals. I really hope that makes sense. Instead of being obsessed with the result, be obsessed with becoming the person. Because when you become obsessed with becoming the person, the result will come. I was in Dubai for 19 hours. Lesson number 1, 2 a.m., decided to make a choice. That was right. I don't regret that. The choice to come back, that was right. I don't regret that either. And here's what I want to leave you with. Courage isn't just about taking that leap. That took courage, yes. But courage can also be pivoting. You make that jump and you realize it's not the best situation for you. So you pivot and you change. That takes courage as well. I think the easier path would have been me staying there and giving into pressure. But instead, I took the best action possible, in my own opinion, to pivot. So that being said, never have regrets. Always bet on yourself. Make sure that the work you do is aligned, and then don't people please. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I plan to post as much raw content as I can, purely to build a story and trust with you guys so that you can see me grow and see that I go through struggles that you guys do as well. I couldn't sleep at night because I felt that much anxiety. I hate saying the word anxiety. I don't believe in it. I've been that person, but then it happens to me. I go through the same struggles, but on the other side of that is growth. Okay, so comment your silver bullets from this video. God bless, and let's freaking go. Let's crush it.